Hi, my name is Victoria Sparks, and this is part 3. I am reading The Bailey School Kids, The Abominable Snowman Doesn't Roast Marshmallows. And in the last section, the Bailey School Kids have made a connection. They think that Mr. Savage here might be related and might be cousins with Mr. Squash, as in Sasquatch, Bigfoot. Alright, so we're starting with chapter 7. Called Feeding Ground. The next morning, Liza's telephone rang. It was Melody. "You have to get over here," Melody whispered through the phone. "But we'll all be late for school," Liza warned her friend. "Being late for school is the least of our worries," Melody told her before hanging up the phone and calling Howie. "But I'm rewriting the opening paragraph of my science paper," Howie told her. "Forget science," Melody told Howard. "We have a bigger problem than science. Way bigger." When Melody called Eddie, he was eating breakfast. "I haven't had my cereal yet," he complained. I can't go out without my Wheaties." "Even they won't make you strong enough to deal with this problem," Melody warned. "Now hurry!" Liza, Howie, and Eddie made it to Melody at the same time. She waited for them under the streetlight in front of her house. It was so early that the light still shone brightly on the falling snow. Snow already covered Melody's pigtails. She held her finger to her mouth to keep her friends from talking. She led them around a drift and kicked through snow until they were in her backyard. "What's this about?" Howie asked. "My boots are full of snow," Liza complained. "I'm hungry," Eddie added. "You won't care when you see what I have found," Melody told her. She pointed to the ground outside her bedroom window. Howie, Liza, and Eddie looked where Melody pointed. Then they looked at Melody. "You made me miss breakfast to show me snow," Eddie sputtered. Melody rolled her eyes. "You're not really looking," she told them. Her friends looked close again. This time, more closely. "It can't be," Liza finally said. "We must be imagining it," Howie said. He rubbed his eyes and looked again. "They're real," Melody said with a nod as she moved closer to the giant footprints that covered her backyard. The snow, falling rapidly, was filling up the footprints. Eddie stepped inside one of the tracks. He could fit both of his boots in one, with room to spare. "These don't look like they were made by a boot," he said. "They look like they were made by a barefoot. A giant barefoot." "Whoever made these tracks is huge," said Liza. So you've got all the kids, and there's Eddie with both of his feet in the footprints. Those are really big footprints. "Whoever made them should not be wandering around in his bare feet. They could get frostbitten," Howie added. Since Howie planned on being a doctor, he always worried about people's health. Melody shook her head. "Whatever made those tracks doesn't have to worry about the cold," she said. "You mean you know who made them?" Howie asked. "Of course I do," Melody said. "Who?" Liza asked. "Not who," Melody said. "What?" "It was the Abominable Snowman." Eddie flopped onto the mound of snow. "Nobody believes in that monstrous snowman fairy tale," he said. "Besides," Howie added, "even if the Abominable Snowman was real and was visiting Bailey City, why would he be tromping around your yard?" "That's easy," Melody said seriously. "He was looking for dinner." Liza gulped. Howie gasped. Not Eddie. He laughed. "Well, if the Abominable Snowman likes brains, he's not going to find me around your house." Melody waited for Eddie to stop laughing. She looked at him square in the eyes. "What makes you think he was only in my yard?" she asked. Liza's mouth flew open. She squeaked, but no words came out. She didn't need to talk, though. Melody knew exactly what Liza was thinking. "If I'm right," Melody said, "your yard will be full of tracks, too." The kids looked at Melody like she was crazy, but only for a moment. Then they were off, running as fast as they could in their snow boots. First they went to Liza's house. Then they stopped by Howie's house. Finally they raced to Eddie's backyard. Sure enough, at each place, it was the same. Tracks so big and deep that even the falling snow couldn't hide them, covered every yard. "Do you really think it's the Abominable Snowman it was in our yard last night?" Liza asked in a hushed whisper. Melody nodded. "And if I'm right, I know exactly where these tracks will lead us. Right back to Mr. Savage's snowy campsite." Chapter 8, Super Spy. We don't have time for monster tracking, Howie said. We have to get to school. And I have to get some food, Eddie added. Besides, Howie said slowly, I'm sure there's a logical explanation for the tracks, because there's no such thing as the Abominable Snowman. Oh yeah, Melody challenged. Then tell me, what's the logical explanation? Howie blinked. He scratched his head under his cap. Finally, he shook his head. I don't know, let me think. Liza patted Melody on her shoulder as Howie and Eddie went inside the kitchen for a quick bowl of cereal. Maybe the boys are right, Liza said. Let's forget about the monster story. But Liza might as well have told Melody to show up at school in her underwear. Either way, it wasn't going to happen. There was no way Melody could forget those monster tracks outside her house. That afternoon, Melody was very quiet as her 4 friends left school, and they headed for Bailey City Park, where the floats were being built. A giant parade kicked off the Winter Frost Festival, and the kids always went to the park for a sneak preview. There was one float carved out of white foam that looked like a village in the North Pole. It was made by the workers at the electric company. Another float didn't look wintry at all. It had palm trees with hammocks tied between them. The sign on the front said Bailey City Travel Agency. Liza pulled her friends towards the float that included a castle painted white and covered in glitter. See, she said, I told you an Ice Princess castle would be perfect for our ice sculpture. But the librarians from Bailey City Library already used your idea, Howie said. So if we built an ice sculpture, we'll have to think of something else. I already thought of something else, Eddie argued. Monsters! The 4 friends made their way from one float to another. Suddenly, Melody grabbed at them and pointed down at the ground. Amidst the tracks made by dog paws and kid paws were bare feet tracks, and not just any feet, huge feet. So there's a picture of the floats and the kids. He's here, Melody whispered. The Abominable Snowman is here. Does that mean your imaginary monster likes parades? Eddie asked in an innocent voice. Melody ignored his teasing. If the Abominable Snowman is spying on the parade, it can only mean one thing. There's something else here he wants. Like what? Howie asked. Think about it, Melody said. Every year, the entire town of Bailey City lines the streets to watch the parade that kicks off the carnival. We're all in one place at the same time. That makes it a perfect time for the Abominable Snowman to attack. If we don't do something fast, the parade will be a disaster and the carnival will be ruined. But worse than that, the entire town will be in danger. Eddie laughed. Since there is no Abominable Snowman, there's absolutely nothing to worry about. If you're sure, then you won't mind doing a little spying on Mr. Savage after school, will you? Melody asked. Eddie grinned and patted Melody on the back. Of course not, he said. After all, Super Spy is my middle name. Chapter 9, Horror Movie. Let's do it, Melody said as soon as the school bell rang the next afternoon. Are you sure this is a good idea? Liza asked her friends as they headed down the hallway outside their 3rd grade classroom. What if Mr. Savage really is the Abominable Snowman? His name sounds more like a professional wrestler to me, Eddie said, with a snicker. He opened the door to the outside, and a blast of whirling snow hit him in the face. I'd rather read a book and sip hot chocolate, Howie admitted, but at least Mr. Savage's campsite is on our way home. The 4 kids pulled their hats down and shoved their scarves up until only their eyes showed. They looked like mummies stomping down Delaware Boulevard. Do you see anything? Liza asked when they got to Main Street. I don't think he's here, Howie said. Liza gulped as they crossed the street. Maybe he's waiting to pounce on us like in those horror movies. How many horror movies have you ever seen? Eddie asked Liza. He knew she didn't like anything scary, and that her mother wouldn't let her watch anything that wasn't rated G. Well, only part of one, Liza admitted. I saw it at my cousin's house, and it gave me nightmares for weeks. This isn't a movie, Melody told her. This is real life, so be careful and be ready to run. Liza whimpered, but she followed her friends. The snow fell harder, and it was already growing darker. She didn't want to cross Main Street, but she definitely didn't want to walk home alone either. The kids trudged as quickly as possible in their snow boots. They searched around the fire pit and the snow house. Eddie sat on the snow chair. Hey, this isn't bad. It doesn't even feel like snow. I'm not sure what I expected to find, Melody said, but there's nothing here. What about this? Howie asked. He plucked a travel brochure for the ski resort in Colorado from a snowdrift. Winter Park, Liza read. The perfect place for cold weather fun. Speaking of cold weather, Eddie complained, I'm freezing and starving. Let's get a snack at my house. Maybe Grandma will let us roast marshmallows over the gas stove. But Melody wasn't ready to leave. Wait, she said. I bet I know where to find Mr. Savage. So there's a picture of everybody looking at Mr. Savage's house. He's probably at Fred Barbeau's Sportman's buying long underwear, Eddie snapped. Nope, Melody told her friends. He is on Ruby Mountain looking for his cousin. We have to save Bailey City before a monster returns to crash our parade. Bailey City doesn't need saving, Eddie said. But if we go to Ruby Mountain, I could try out my new sled. Eliza shook her head. No way, I'm not sledding on Ruby Mountain. It's too dangerous. Not as dangerous as the Abominable Snowman using Bailey City for his hunting ground, Melody pointed out. Well, Liza said, we can't go now because it's already getting dark. Melody nodded. You're right. That means we'll have to go first thing in the morning. Tomorrow is Saturday, so we don't have to worry about school. But the parade is tomorrow, Howie said, and we can't miss the human dog sled race. Set your alarms for 6 o'clock, Melody said, and meet at my house. It's our last chance to save Bailey City from a snow monster attack. All right, that's the end of chapter 9. You'll have to return for part 4.